Hello, this is the prologue to the video where Matt Hardy is actually defending Tony Khan's booking skills. Now, I actually noticed this after I recorded the video that he complained about one specific aspect of Tony Khan's booking, which is the ruining of the Hardy family office. So this was on his podcast. He says, quote, "We actually got pretty hot at one point with the 6-man tags we were doing as heels with Big Money Matt. I really felt like we had a lot of momentum. We were doing good and we have continued to elevate as a trios tag until we started adding people. Tony said, we don't have anyone speaking for Butcher and Blade now. They're better when they have a mouthpiece. Do you mind if I put them with you?" And I was like, sure, I'll do that. But then it became a little excessive. Then they had TH2. It became so watered down. I know in the notes, you kind of described the HFO as an island of misfit toys. I described it at the same time as the island of misfit toys. That's exactly how I described the group. It became so many guys that we really didn't know what to do with it, and it became directionless. It just kind of ended up being people that would put other people over. So, keep that in mind as you listen to Matt Hardy try to defend Tony Khan's booking and then my rip of him as well as Tony Khan. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you guys on the other side.
What the world?
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries, friends and relatives. It is me, MagMongoSlade. Today we're going to be talking about Matt Hardy, who is standing up for his boss, Tony Khan, and attacking, quote, entitled wrestling fans. So we're going to talk about this, and this is going to be pretty interesting. So Matt Hardy on his podcast, I mean, how much trouble is AEW getting into by letting these guys have podcasts? I mean, Jesus Christ. Here's what Matt Hardy had to say. It's a really intriguing concept that so many fans that consider themselves diehard fans, and this is no disrespect to them, but they are so caught up and captivated by the inner workings of the business and why things are happening. They feel like they can book better than the booker who actually runs the show. It's so crazy now. Wrestling fans are so entitled, especially the more diehard smart fans that are online. They feel entitled like, no, my opinion counts. You're wrong and I'm right. That's very strange, but it is what it is. That's the world we live in today. So we just learn to deal with it. But at the end of the day, Tony Khan is the guy flipping the bills. He makes the decisions. He's paying everybody. So it's his decision to make. If he makes it, I support him 100%. And look, there's nothing wrong with anything Matt Hardy just said, except this new, hey, he's the boss, he should be able to make whatever decisions he wants. That's kind of a new way of looking at things. I mean, people started to sort of complain about, a certain Stanford gentleman who was, footing the bill for guys for 40 years. And people didn't have any problems with him coming out of there saying that, they knew better than him. He doesn't know anything about appraising talent. He doesn't even know anything about writing the show. He doesn't even know anything about booking. He doesn't know anything about anything. And people have been doing this. Well, Dave Meltzer, for instance, has been doing this for, 30 plus years? Because 30 years ago was like 1991. He was doing it before then, I'm pretty sure. Right? So this idea that this is somehow new, it's not new, right? So then somebody on Twitter rightly noted that Tony Khan is literally the guy that Matt Hardy is talking about. Tony Khan has done interviews where he's critiquing Ted Turner, he's critiquing Eric Bischoff, he's critiquing Vince McMahon, and everybody's like, well, he's just a fan with a lot of money. This is kind of ridiculous. Like, you're literally being a hypocrite because your boss, the only difference between him and me is that he's got hundreds of millions of dollars to waste on this project. So Matt Hardy continued this conversation by saying, quote, "You couldn't be more wrong. TK loves wrestling and has surrounded himself with the best mind in the biz since 2018. Cody, Kenny, the Bucks, and Jericho, add Malenko, Arn, Dustin, Jerry Lynn, Moxley, Sting, Christian to that list. Anyone who thinks they've got this trove of knowledge is shitposting. AEW is a collaboration between TK and the talent. You only truly understand the way this biz works if you actually work within it with experienced people. TK has absorbed knowledge from these great minds and understands how to apply it. I'm not ripping it to anyone. I'm just stating the facts. TK has absorbed all of the knowledge from all of these geniuses. That's why he botched Wardlow's push. He's currently botching Hobbs's push. Why, certain people like Hook, he botched his push. Why, Jade Cargill has been a hamster on a wheel for 2 years. Why he's got supremely talented guys like Andrade and Miro sitting at home while, the pizza guy and Orange Cassidy and guys who are not even signed to his roster get 20 minutes on TV every week. I mean, he's absorbed all of this knowledge. He should know better, right? Wrong. We're looking at the output here. We're looking at your output, and we're not thrilled by your output. Your output sucks, Mr. Khan. Sorry to tell you that, Matt Hardy, but your boss sucks. All right? There's nothing, absolutely nothing, that he just said that does not already apply to, let's say, Dixie Carter. Let's say when Dixie Carter took over TNA, she had access to Dutch Mantell, Jim Cornette, Vince Russo, Jeff Jarrett, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, and others. And she still managed to sink the ship. She still managed to sink that ship. It doesn't matter who you have access to if you don't listen to them. That is literally that simple. You can have some of the finest teachers in the world. If you don't listen to them, then clearly it's not good enough. If you're not listening to Jim Ross, who's been telling you for 2 years or whatever, this might be the guy, this could be the guy, and you're not listening to him, then why say, I have access to Jim Ross? You don't listen to him. So what? It doesn't matter who your coach is. It only matters how you play. And you play like you ain't got no coach. And it's just unfortunate. And it's humorous because guys like Eric Bischoff, who have more experience than Tony Khan, have critiqued him. And people have said that he's a hater. But he recently, again, came out and said that AEW doesn't tell good stories. So this was from, I guess, what is this, November? It's October of 2022. This is actually a better quote than the one that he gave recently. So I'm going to use this one instead. Eric Bischoff says, quote, when you're introducing new talent, or when you've got a talent that you haven't really matched up storyline-wise with an opponent yet, but you want to expose that talent, you want the audience to become familiar with that talent. You want to establish that talent. Sure, put them in there in a match, or put people in matches that don't really have a story. But use that time in non-storyline matches to give us some real backstory and information about said talent. Make us care. I don't always have to be in the form of a storyline, a traditional structured Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 kind of story. If I've ever given the impression that I thought every match on Nitro had a storyline, forgive me. I never meant to. My issue and my comments about AEW and the creative behind it is really about your top matches that don't have sufficient story or structure, or at least a compelling one. There's always an excuse for a match. There's always an angle. Your traditional from back in the beginning of time, an exciting moment or inciting moment that creates a match or creates a storyline, but your top matches, your A, B, C, D storylines, that's different. I've seen a lot of matches, a lot of storylines. Well, what AEW considers a storyline that I feel are just nothing more than excuses for a match. They're not well-crafted stories. Hey, if you're on Matt Hardy's side of the fence, does Eric Bischoff, does his critique really sink home with you? He's been on the inside of this business. He's had access to some wrestling geniuses. He come through the business. He used to work for Vern Gagne, for Christ's sake. He used to work alongside Bill Watts, for Christ's sake. He's worked with Hogan. He's worked with Vince. He's, run wrestling promotions. He actually defeated Vince for 83 weeks, which, you know, he talks about constantly. But he is completely dismissed. So the argument that, oh yeah, you don't really understand this business until you're on the inside. But then when you're on the inside, like Eric Bischoff, like Vince Russo, like Jim Cornette, and you're critiquing Tony Khan and basically saying the same damn thing over and over again, everybody is speaking pretty much with one voice on this subject, that Tony Khan doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, then you're told, you need to be quiet. You don't know what you're talking about. Tony Khan's got this. He's got this, bro. And everybody's just kind of like, okay, if you say so. I mean, what more is there to it? The guys who's got to do the work, those guys are apparently okay with it. The fans that actually show up, you know, the 3,000, the 3,000 to 5,000 that show up weekly, maybe a couple of more on a pay-per-view. Those people seem to be pretty excited. So he's doing something okay. The idea of expanding the brand, So Matt Hardy, you know, for all of the brown nosing he's doing, you know, as brown as his lips are going to end up being as he speaks into that microphone, it doesn't matter whether it's just a regular fan or whether it's a guy who has years of experience. If you're not interested in hearing it, if you're arrogant enough to think that you know what you're doing when you're not seeing that much in the way of actual growth, then, I mean, it is what it is. If you're happy being where you are, that's great. As long as the guy who's flipping the checks, as Matt Hardy says, is excited about every week, fine. I don't care. It's not my money. It's not my time. I'm not the one taking the bumps. It's these guys taking the bumps. It's these guys doing it. But as somebody who's watched a lot of wrestling from a lot of different wrestling promotions, AEW could be doing so much better, especially with the talent roster that they have. But they don't want to put forth the effort. They want to be the anti-WWE. They want to keep coming up with, again, reasons to have a match, excuses to have a match. And guess what? Nobody cares. It is what it is. People will just tune out and not watch it, or, you know, get bored and not watch it, or next time you shoot an angle with no real payoff or whatever, people will just not watch it. And then what? You know, you shouldn't feel entitled to people watching your show. But then again, they didn't say that. But what do you think? Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
Tell me what's worse than learning all that you led to believe was all horse crap. They distort so